Imagine you were at a networking event, or maybe at a house party. You know, a social event, people are there having a good time, and there is someone that you want to connect with. Maybe this is a business prospect, maybe this is a potential client, or maybe this is someone that you like, but you just can't bring yourself to do it. You're having anxiety. What are they gonna think of you? You are worried that you are gonna screw it up. Or maybe it's a business venture that you have been thinking of starting for a while. Again, your mind goes to places thinking all the possibilities as to how it might go wrong. So years pass by and you don't really start. See, in both situations, what's holding us back is not the external, but it's our minds. We have certain interpretations of what's happening around us is what's holding us back. I have wondered for the longest time as to why we have certain thoughts, usually negative, and holds us back from who we really want to be instead of having more uplifting and positive thoughts. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be positive, they could just be neutral. And the answer to that, my friends, is our subconscious mind. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Overcome Yourself podcast. If this is your first time here, I am Saad, and after 10 years in corporate, I went on a journey to heal my anxiety and to fix my relationship with the world, and now I feel a deep sense of calling to help other people do the same. In today's episode, we're talking about the subconscious mind. We're gonna dive into what it is, how it has the potential to make our lives a lot easier, or harder for that matter, and what we can do to turn it into our ally. So our conversation today is going to be based on the works of Dr. Joseph Murphy, who went on to write this amazing book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, which has influenced millions. So in the book, he draws this very interesting dichotomy between the conscious and the subconscious. What's important to understand is Dr. Murphy is not saying that you have two different minds. It's more like two layers of the same mind. And this way of looking at the mind is not uncommon. Freud has his way of categorizing the mind, being the id, superego, and the ego. And then there is Carl Jung, who was also talking about the conscious and the unconscious and how the unconscious plays a role in our lives without us even realizing it. Yeah, so you don't have split personality. So the difference between the conscious and the subconscious is interesting. So the conscious mind is capable of making choices. It has preferences, or as Dr. Murphy calls it in his book, it's a watchman at the gate. So going back to our example of being at a party and wanting to talk to someone, we have these thoughts, and then consciously we can choose to accept these thoughts and let them influence our behavior or not. This is something that all of us are pretty much familiar with. We tap into the conscious mind making everyday decisions, and a lot of literature around behavior change is about using your conscious mind to make you act differently than you previously have, which is largely a function of willpower. And then there's the subconscious. It's largely impersonal, and as Dr. Joseph Murphy says in his book, it can be impressed with certain ideas or emotions. And what it does is it hands us back those thoughts and emotions when we are out and about in the world. So see, the reason you are not choosing to talk to that person at the party or the networking event, or not starting your own business, is because your subconscious is handing these thoughts and emotions that are not aligned with who you actually want to be to your conscious mind. Now sure, you can go override that using the conscious mind and use a lot of willpower, but the problem with willpower is that it's short in supply and it takes a lot of effort. Like, you grind and hustle. And yeah, we need to do that on a certain level, but if that's all we are doing every time we want to change a behavior or we want to take action towards becoming a certain version of ourselves and we're having to grind and clench and tighten up, life's just not gonna be fun. So we need to do something so that our subconscious feeds us stuff that we actually want. So before we get into practices, there are two key concepts that we need to understand. So the first one is What the conscious mind accepts and entertains is what will get lodged in the subconscious. Or as we tech bros would say, garbage in, garbage out. What does this mean? Let's say someone cuts you off on the road and you immediately start reacting. You say to yourself things like, why did that person have to do that? People are just not nice anymore. Things used to be so much better back in the days. The world is going crazy. And guess what? You just increase the possibility of you reacting like that the next time a similar situation happens, because you have so much conviction and so much feeling associated behind this narrative that you have got going on that is what's gonna get stored in your subconscious. We don't want to do that. And the second big idea is that we impress the subconscious with feelings. The subconscious is impersonal. It doesn't understand words or rationales. Things get lodged in there because thoughts and ideas get charged with emotions, and our body remembers emotions. And that's the language that our subconscious understands. If you have checked out Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, he talks about this a lot as to how we should teach our body to feel and experience different emotions under different circumstances than what we have been doing at this point, because that's the key to feel better about life. Now that we understand our subconscious a little bit better, let's go over a few practices that we can adopt to impress our subconscious. When it comes to doing any kind of subconscious mind reprogramming work, the first thing we need to do is to get to a place of relaxation and feeling good. Why? Because if we're stressed and agitated, our conscious mind is going to be very much on guard, and it's going to prevent new ideas from coming in and impressing our subconscious. I had this blocking me for the longest time as I was trying to solve my insomnia. I used to think that the solution was in making external lifestyle changes, like taking in more supplements like melatonin, or doing more exercise to tire the body out, or changing my diet. And every time I wouldn't be able to sleep well, my mind would immediately start thinking that we didn't do this right yesterday, we didn't do that right, maybe we had a little bit of a late dinner. And if I listen to audio programs or affirmations saying how the solution is to just let go and being able to relax, my mind wouldn't believe that at all. And eventually, through Michael Singer's work, I was able to relax, and my mind opened up a little more and started buying into this idea of just relaxing, which I found ultimately to be the key to solve this problem. So when it comes to relaxation, I personally recommend a two-step protocol. In the first step, you relax and release. This is a technique from Michael Singer that I have made a whole video on, and I have blabbed about it on this channel for quite a bit. Essentially, the idea is you release the tension in your body by doing breath work and body scan, and that in turn slows the mind down, and now you're calm and quiet. I'm not gonna go very much into the details of that, as I have made a whole video on it on the channel. I'm gonna link it up above. So that is the technique that I use to calm myself down at the end of the day. And once that's done, the second step of the protocol is to do a gratitude practice. And when it comes to gratitude, don't do it in this very corporate executive kind of way where you just take 2 minutes of your time and list 5 things that you're grateful for and then check. No, that's not gonna work. Instead, what I do is I go over my day and revisit memories or things that have happened during the day that have made me feel good, and do a visualization to recreate the feeling in my body. So essentially, at the end of the practice, no matter what has happened during the day, I'm in this place where I'm calm and relaxed, and if someone asked me, hey, how are you doing? How's life? My response to that would be, you know what? Life's good. And this is when your mind is open to new suggestions. Okay, now that we are calm and quiet and relaxed and we feel good about life, let's get to the part where we actually go in and put stuff into our subconscious. There are primarily 2 ways of doing this. One is affirmations or auto-suggestions, and the second one is visualization. And one might work better for you than the other, depending on whether you are more of an auditory or a visual thinker. I personally use a combination of both because through my practice, I have found out that's what works best for me. Let's try to illustrate how that would look like with an example. Let's go back to our example in the beginning of this video, where maybe you are in a social situation and you want to talk to someone. And this is probably at a party or a networking event. Yeah, that one. So what happens now is when we find ourselves in that situation, you probably experience anxiety. You get into a place of self-consciousness where you are thinking of reasons not to initiate the conversation. The first question to ask from there is, how do we want to feel instead? How do we have to feel for us to make the act, which in this case is initiating the conversation, effortless? And the answer to that would be probably a sense of calm and confidence and being comfortable in our own skin, maybe with a little hint of excitement because we have been wanting to meet this person and we're finally gonna get to. So that is the feeling that we want to create through our practice, because as I have mentioned before, the body remembers the feeling and the subconscious picks up on that. And then when you find yourself in that situation again, chances are higher that instead of getting into that place of anxiety, you're going to remember this new feeling that you have conditioned yourself with during your practice. Now, how do we go about doing that conditioning? You can imagine yourself in the situation. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself at that party or the networking event. See people around you having drinks, talking to each other, the texture of the room, the lighting, everything. And then there is this person that you want to connect with. And you don't have to be specific here. Imagine a silhouette of a person. Maybe this is a business executive. So you could imagine this person in a suit and a tie and in a formal attire. And as you see this person, try to create the feeling in your body. Stoke the fire of the feeling a little bit. Maybe tell yourself things like, yeah, I'm very excited to talk to this person. And then see yourself moving in that direction and eventually having that conversation. See yourself from a third person view having the conversation and see it going very well. See this person appreciating you approaching them, and stay there. Stay there. Stay in that good feeling. Stay in the feeling of things going well and feel yourself getting energized. And as you keep doing more and more of it, when you find yourself in that situation, the likelihood of your mind tapping into this new place of excitement and enthusiasm instead of anxiety is gonna be much higher. I'm not saying you're gonna be a clean slate from the next day and the thoughts of anxiety and insecurity is not gonna come up. But where before it was all anxiety and self-consciousness, now there would be some excitement and enthusiasm or even openness to the possibility that maybe you could get to that state. And then we keep practicing more and more and more. And as we keep doing it, the new pattern gets lodged in. And the biggest block in doing all of this is the old patterns and negative thoughts and emotions coming up. This is where we'll have to apply a little bit of force and have to be a little stern. If it's too intense, like you're having intrusive thoughts that are very frequent, something like a release exercise might help. I personally affirm to myself that I release all negative thoughts. And for me, it encapsulates all the negative mental impressions that could come up, be that thoughts and emotions. And as I affirm to myself about releasing the negative thoughts over and over again, a release happens for me. I am back into that place of calm and groundedness. And then I can go back to doing the work of impressing the subconscious. Guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. If you are like me and you struggle with anxiety and you have a lot of negative thoughts, basically if you have a lot to overcome, this is not gonna be easy. It's like setting aside time during the day and going into this mental gym, this process of impressing your subconscious, but I can promise you that it's gonna be worth it in the end. So the key is to keep at it. So quick So a quick recap of the whole process. We want to create a state of relaxation and feeling calm and comfortable and feeling good about life. And the way we do that is by doing techniques like breath work and relaxing and releasing, and combining that with a gratitude practice. And in the next step, we imagine ourselves in a scenario where we would like our subconscious to provide us with a different set of thoughts and emotions. We recreate the scene in our minds, and then imagine ourselves reacting very differently, feeling very different emotions, and thinking very different thoughts. We make it in our minds as vivid and as real as possible, which in turn makes the subconscious remember these feelings and thoughts and emotions and bring them back up when we actually find ourselves in those situations in real life. What I highly want to stress in all of this is you really want to focus on the feeling. I personally am a very cognitive person. I get into my head very easily, and I find it exhausting to beat thoughts with thoughts. That is not to say there is no validity to cognitive techniques like reframing negative thoughts, finding cognitive distortions, and all the work that CBT tells you to do. That could also be extremely effective, but for me, focusing on the feeling is what ultimately worked, because what I have found is the feelings change the thoughts by itself. I don't have to go in and rewire and do this mental fight of battling thoughts with thoughts. So that's everything that I had in mind when it comes to reprogramming your subconscious mind. This is what I practice every day, and it has worked wonders for me. It has transformed my social life, my relationship with my family members, and just how I feel about life in general. And of course, not to say you can leverage this to form new habits and train new mental patterns. Give it a shot and let me know how it goes in the comments section, and I'll see you in the next video.